Hello, hello. It is Saturday, March 15th, and I am Jessica, also known as Jessica for Justice. My co host Michelle will be joining us in just a few minutes. We are going to be talking about some very important things that are happening in Texas. Texas legislation is happening again, and there are some very important bills that are coming up that could potentially help victims if the laws are passed. These laws have already gone through. I'm sorry, these bills have already gone through the Senate, so they need to go through the House and get voted for approval in order for them to become a law. We do think that we will have a little bit of a harder time going through the House than we did with the Senate. So that's kind of why we're doing this live, so we can help educate people on what bills are coming up, who's on the committee, what you can do as a Texan to help out to get these bills passed so they can get voted on, excuse me, to become a law. So it's not the most exciting thing, but we desperately need help to get these bills passed so they can help people. Hi, Christina. Thanks for joining. So, on Tuesday, March 18th, the Criminal Jurisprudence Committee is going to be meeting. And there's going to be 8 bills that are going to be coming up. So, going to discuss what these bills are and what they can do to help. So I'm going to share a video. It's not going to be the bill that they're talking about in this video, but what happened definitely would also apply to these bills that they're trying to get passed. So I just want to show examples of why we need these laws. So this family, the family of Caitlin, has done a lot to get laws passed. They did already get a law passed that you can't get a PR bond if you are arrested for domestic violence, which you shouldn't be able to get a PR bond. What happened in this particular case is Caitlin was being abused by her husband, and she was pregnant. She was terrified, as most domestic violence victims are, and she didn't do anything for a while. But then one night he beat her and he killed her cat. So she called the police and he was finally arrested, and they let him out on a PR bond. And she had no idea that he was released. So when she came home, he jumped out of the closet and stabbed her to death. And she was 4 months pregnant at that time as well. So what happened to Caitlin has already made an impact in Texas by making a law where judges cannot give PR bonds for charges like that. But the particular bill that's coming up that I'm going to use what happened to her as an example is uh, HB 36, because that has to do with relating to the monitoring of family violence offenders, the provision of resources for the victims, collection of information about conditions that need to be imposed if they do get bond. So communicating more with victims when things like this happen so that they can prevent things like this from happening. So I'm going to go ahead and show this quick video from KHOU a little bit about Caitlin. So again, just remember the law that they're referring to in this story is not the one that I just mentioned. Oh, whoops, I hit full screen. All right. It is so windy and I do not like it. It's so creepy.
1 year ago today, police say a woman who was 4 months pregnant was killed by her husband. At the time, he was out of jail on multiple bonds. But tonight, the victim's family says they want a law passed in the woman's name to make sure this doesn't happen again. Here's Grace White.
Do you feel like the system failed your daughter?
The system absolutely failed my daughter.
Melanie Enfinger didn't just lose a daughter, she also lost a grandchild.
It's actually the day before this happened, I was planning a wonderful gender reveal. We were so excited.
Her daughter, Caitlin Guajardo, was pregnant. Investigators say she and her baby were murdered by her husband, Alex Guajardo, at their Pasadena apartment in August of 2019. He was out of jail on multiple PR bonds, meaning he didn't have to pay. The last charge for assaulting Caitlin, he made bond just days before he's accused of stabbing her to death. Now this mother wants to pass Caitlin's law.
To make sure that if you're out on a PR bond, you're not given another PR bond. I mean, it's like there's just no accountability.
You just can't hand out these PR bonds like popcorn, and that's what appears to be happening down at the courthouse.
State Senator Paul Betancourt says he plans to introduce a bill next session.
We shouldn't have people out killing other people. Bail reform has gone too far, and it needs to be stopped.
If it had been stopped, this mother says she could have found out if her grandbaby was a boy or a girl instead of planning a funeral.
If I can save one life, telling my daughter's story, I think that would be amazing. I mean, I just want to get the story out.
Caitlin's husband is behind bars, charged with capital murder for her death and her unborn child. There were several bail reform bills last session that never passed. Her mother now hopes next session in 2021 there will be new momentum. Lynn?
1 year ago.
So again, I'm just using this as an example. This video was 4 years ago. So Caitlin was murdered 5 years ago. But the bill that I mentioned, HB 36, would have applied in this situation with monitoring of family violence offenders. You know, Caitlin should have been contacted when he received bond. But just to update you, the law was passed that if you are arrested for family violence, you cannot get a PR bond. So Caitlin's mom was successful. And the majority of us that want these bills passed have similar stories. We're not doing this, just to be on TV or just to be a pain in the butt to some politician. We do this because we don't want it to happen to anybody else. I've met Caitlin's mom. She's, feisty. She's smart. She has done amazing things in the name of her daughter. So most of us are trying to leave a legacy for our loved one. So the HB 36, if that is passed, that would help in a situation like this. And Michelle is here. I see you, Michelle. I see you. I'm going to add Michelle now. Hi, Michelle.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. I was like, wait, what time is it? Okay. It's
Yeah,
morning.
well, it depends where people are, but to everybody in Texas and over to the west, it's still morning. So, and so for any of the bills that we are going to be talking about, if you are unable to go to the Capitol yourself, if you would like to support these bills, you live in Texas, you can do public comment and fill out the form online. I'm going to go ahead and share that in the chat on YouTube and on Twitter. I'm not going to call it X, it is Twitter. And then I'll add this to the description of the video when we're done. So I have that in there. And I'm also going to share the link of everybody that is on the criminal jurisprudence committee. So if this is somebody that represents you, we definitely need you to contact them. We would very much appreciate that. If you don't know who represents you, there is a website that you can go to and put in your address, and that'll tell you in Texas. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat as well. Because you can also contact your representative's office. You can email them, you can call them, just make sure to be nice because most of the time you're dealing with their assistants. And regardless, be nice because we want these things to pass. So, even if you cannot stand who represents you, if you're in favor of these bills, just be nice. So I've shared all of that on Twitter and YouTube. And again, I'll put it in the descriptions once we finish. All right. All right, Michelle. So all I've done is kind of talk about what's coming up. And I shared Caitlin's story because it would apply to HB 36 with the monitoring of certain family violence. So the only bill that I've even touched a little on is HB 36. But I'm also going to, let me see. So I want to make sure that anybody that is wanting to learn about these bills or, if you're not sure if you're on the fence, I want you to be able to do your own research and find this stuff. So that's why I'm sharing the information. So yeah, Tesla is not
She's
happy
got
right
a
now.
lot to say. She is not happy. Okay.
Yeah, Michi's been very barky this morning as well. Let's see. Oh, I typed that wrong.
I'm
All right.
talking now. It's my turn.
So, which one of these bills that are coming up in the next session are you going to be testifying in favor of?
Let me get my list just a minute.
So I'm also going to share the bill that I just brought up, HB 36. I'm going to share in the chat where you can find more information. It's a lot of legalese, but if you put it in Chat GPT, they can help
Tessa, please.
break it down a little bit easier. So I put that in the chat, and I'm going to do that with all the bills that we discussed. To be able to read it and make your own decisions on that. We would really appreciate your support on these bills because unfortunately, when it comes to bills like this, you would be surprised that we do have a lot of pushback, unfortunately. And typically there's more opposition than there is support. So, again, we would greatly appreciate your help. All right. I see you got your glasses on, so that must mean you have your list.
It means I'm reading and I got my list. I've got I'm between our joint resolution 16 and then also HB 36. But one of the things that's important to me is also HB 799. I have a big problem with PR bonds. And I have a big problem with the way that judges are circumventing these PR bonds too by just assigning a very small cash bail amount since they are offenses that can't get a PR bond.
Right, like the gentleman. I don't know why I said gentleman because he definitely is not a gentleman. I just use that verbiage all the time to be very nice. This to me that I just want to say so much worse words thinking about that case. He kidnapped a woman and kept her for days and did horrible things to her. And I think he got $1 bond. It was to get around the PR bond. So they are already doing things to get around it. So HB 799 is relating to the release of personal bonds. So that's personal recognizance bonds of certain defendants charged with misdemeanor or state jail felonies, for y'all wondering. And HGR 16 that Michelle mentioned is proposing a constitutional amendment requiring the denial of bail for an illegal alien charged with an offense punishable as a felony. This is Jocelyn's bill, correct? Yeah, this bill is in honor of Jocelyn Nagiri because of what happened to her. So, Christy, the question in the chat is, what is the opposition to the bills? So sometimes we don't know the opposition. Sometimes it's organizations. There's other organizations that are
Abolish the prison, let
Yeah.
everybody out of jail for free because they're poor and they're black and they're brown. And again, I'll say it, we are poor and we are black and brown and we're the victims. And so when you have these special interest groups, I still can't quite figure out what kind of chaos they're trying to put in the community. What is the point of all of this? Because it doesn't work. It's proven to not work. You look at cities like Chicago, New York, San Francisco, look at California, where they don't want to prosecute certain crimes, and it's just become mayhem. And
Portland,
it's like,
Austin.
I was talking to somebody yesterday about it, and I said, well, the judges, our Harris County judges that we have right now with the backlogs they have on their dockets, they're still not working a full shift. We went to court that one day and the judge recused herself and we had no idea what was going on and we had to find another judge, and it was 1:30 in the afternoon, 2:30 in the afternoon, and all the courtrooms were closed. Everybody was done. And we don't have night court anymore. And so it's like, okay, well, they constantly have a cycle of people to come in, so they still have a job. And all the people that are opposing it seem to be criminal defense attorneys because now they have a bunch of clients. They're not going to, and if they don't have to pay bail, then they have money to pay for an attorney. So it's just more money in their pocket. And they're just pushing out an industry and somebody said it the other day, well, it's for profit. Well, honey, every industry is for profit. We live in a fee for service society. You have to pay a fee to get a service. And it's not predatory. Bail bondsmen aren't creating criminals. They're babysitting them for us. But when they get out for free, nobody's babysitting them. And then next thing you know, I went to work after my 3 days off from being robbed and got robbed again by the same kids. So I've been on both sides. And I was a terrible child, did a lot of things, and poor and Latina, and being told to go back to my country all the time, and not getting opportunities for being a Latina, not getting opportunities just for being female, and then to get involved in the criminal justice system and only get those same opportunities taken away from me just because I'm a victim and I'm not a criminal is really defeating to people who don't break the law, and you expect that you're going to have your justice. My offenders were in jail less than 24 hours and never spent another day in jail. Never got jail time, never went to prison. We're talking, they had AR-15s, pistols, knives, you name it. And it's always a group. It's always 4 or 5 of them and 2 or 3 of us. And it's violent and it's brutal and it's traumatizing and it's just over and over and over. And then the cops are taking forever to get there. And I ask them, why are you taking so long to come? And well, we just picked up these kids last week and here they are again. I say kids, they're 16 to 19 years old.
Yeah.
And as young as 12. And well, we picked him up last week after another robbery. That one's wearing an ankle monitor. Like, we're getting tired of this. It's really defeating to keep picking these same people up over and over and over again when we've got a lot to do. And then we put them in jail and we sit there for 5 hours filling out paperwork. And by the time we're done with our paperwork, they're back on the streets. We're not the only ones frustrated by it, but the people that oppose it are the people that are making money off of it. We're not making money off of it.
Yeah, no.
I had to pay money to go to court for my own trial.
Yep. It is. It's $20 to park near the court in Harris County,
minimum.
just so y'all know. It's $20. And every time a victim has to go to court, they have to pay for their own parking. So every domestic violence victim, every rape victim, every murder victim's family has to pay to go to court. And there's no fund that pays that back to us. If you miss work, they're not paying you to miss work. Some people don't have vacation time. Some people work on commission, or some people, their job doesn't have vacation time. Where I'm at right now, I don't have vacation time yet. So me taking off Tuesday to go testify at the Capitol, I'm losing money.
Yeah.
It's costing me hundreds of dollars to go. That's how much I care about this, that I'm going to pay basically to go testify at the Capitol and lose money that I desperately need because I care about this so much, because I don't want anyone else to go through what I've gone through, what Michelle has gone through. So it's really important to us that everybody learns about this. And people wonder, how can I help victims? People watch true crime, or they see it in the news. What can I do to help? This is what you can do to help. And if you're not in Texas, definitely look and see what's going on in your state, because I promise you, there's legislation going on that you have no idea about that could greatly impact what's happening with you. So for those of you who aren't aware of Jocelyn Nagiri, um, I would have to say you're under a rock. But it's been everywhere. It's a horrible, horrible case. A beautiful, 12-year-old,
12 years old,
12 years old, snuck out of her house. Uh,
which we've all done.
yeah, she
So
didn't
I
do,
hate that
and
people blame her and her mom. Well, what was she doing out? She snuck out.
yeah.
Well, what kind of listen, my dad was a great dad. He was fantastic. And he made sure he did all the right things, had all the right security protocols in place. I mean, you name it. But guess what? I still left. Knowing that there was danger out there. But at 14, I thought that I knew everything and I could handle everything. And no, some terrible things happened when we were out in the middle of the night at 14, 15, 16 years old. We didn't know any better, but kids are kids, and
Right.
they don't listen to their parents all the time, and kids do sneak out. And unfortunately, there's predators looking for prey, and they found it in
Yeah,
an innocent child.
she was going to the gas station. She wasn't, regardless of what she was doing, even if she was sneaking out to meet a boy or go to a party, she didn't
Mhm.
deserve
She
what
didn't
happened to
deserve
her.
to.
But
Yep.
she was going to a gas station just to get snacks. And these two men were there, and they lured her away from the gas station and somehow got her under a bridge, and they tied up this little girl. Oh, I can't even. And they raped and tortured her for 2 hours, and it's horrific. Um, but these men should have never have been here to begin with. And if you get arrested and you are not supposed to be here, you don't get bail. And this isn't saying go out and hunt people that are undocumented here in the country. It's not that. This is, if you get arrested, you interact with the police, then you don't get bail. And Michelle, like she said, she's a Latina. I know I look very light. I am also a Latina. My dad immigrated here from Cuba. I know what it's like to grow up in it with an immigrant family, and family that struggles to learn English and all that, and be afraid of the government and all that. It's not about that. It's specifically about preventing what happened to Jocelyn and what her family went through, from it happening again. We don't want this to happen to anybody. Michelle and I both went to the funeral, and we have gotten to know that family, and we're very protective of them, because people have been dragging her family through the mud because she did sneak out, or the fact that she went to the president's address. I don't care who's president. If I get invited, I'm going. If a politician's gonna help me get something passed,
Exactly.
I'm gonna work with them. So someone's asking, what specifically are the organizations and individuals that are the most vocal opponents?
The
Top,
Bail Project, Texas Organizing Project,
yeah.
ACLU, the Wren Collective. Who else have we seen infiltrating the DA's office? So Wren, Bail Project, Top, ACLU, and there was another one. I'll send you a list on, because it's quite a few. But Texas Organizing Project is our biggest opponent here in Houston. The Wren Collective is mainly in Bexar and Travis County. They were never able to really get into Harris County because at the time Kim was our district attorney. And so now that she's not, I expect to start seeing them pop up more here in Harris. But bail project is really big here in all 3 counties with bailing people out of jail. And again, they're not bail bondsmen. So they're not even, and there's no transparency on who they're bailing out and what the disposition of those cases are. There's no accountability. They're a nonprofit and they don't have to share any of that stuff. So we have no idea who they're bailing out of jail and what is their failure to appear rate.
Right.
And so, yeah, those types of organizations are very dangerous to victims.
Yes.
Especially
Yes.
when they're infiltrating our district attorney's offices and creating bail policy for the district attorney's office because they're civil rights attorneys.
Right. And it's not that we don't support, poor people getting
I'm
bond
not
out of
trying to
jail.
deny
We don't
anybody's
want,
civil rights. That's
right.
not what we're saying. I don't want, and we've said this how many times? I'm not asking for the unhoused guy on the corner who's soliciting for money to be picked up for soliciting and 14 open criminal mischief warrants and trespassing and ticket. That's not what we're talking about. I'm not talking about low-level nonviolent or even first-time offenders that are nonviolent and low-level. But that's not what's happening. The O'Donnell consent decree in Harris County has allowed for these judges to say, well, if it's oppressive for misdemeanors, then it's oppressive for felonies too. And it has bled into the felony court, even though that was not the agreement. We were never talking about felonies. And so then you have the Arnold Foundation and all of them putting out these reports about how successful bail reform is. And they're talking about misdemeanors while ignoring the effect that it's had on the felony courts. And that's a big problem because those numbers do factor into how well bail reform is working. And it's not.
Right.
It's not working.
Yeah, one thing Michelle has is data to back up what she's saying. The last time we streamed, we went through all the data because this is all stuff that she goes through and she has proven that this is the case. Like the failure to appear rate in Harris County with the PR bonds is scary.
Insane.
Yeah, and people
never
are
before seen amount of failure to appear. Yesterday I was going through, we've had, our biggest thing right here now is dismissals, right? Insufficient evidence, no probable cause. I mean, there's freaking video, whatever. But when I'm going through all these cases and everything that's dismissed, one of the things that it will bring up are how many times the citation is dismissed as well for somebody who should have their bond revoked because they didn't follow their conditions. They were arrested again. And what I see time and time again, instead of having their bonds forfeited, revoked, and collected from Harris County, they'll just reinstate the bond. And so now they have 2 PR bonds and they never forfeited the amount that when you sign that PR bond, it says, I will come to court or I'll pay this $5,000 or $10,000 or whatever pretrial has set it to, but they're not forfeiting that money. They're not collecting that money. And then they just turn around and reinstate it. Well, they've already shown that they can't come to court for one, and nobody's looking for them when they don't come to court for the first one. They don't get back into court again until they get arrested again. And then they get their bond reinstated and they're given another one. Second chances are great, but second chances are literally that second. Not third, fourth, fifth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 13th, 19th, 25th. It's insane the amount of bonds that I see people out on one time, and they're all going to be misdemeanors. Yeah. Okay. But then all of a sudden there's felonies. Misdemeanors are the gateway drug to felony crime. And so you've got people with 6, 7 misdemeanors that have finally committed 2 felonies. And so now you have eight cases in the DA's office in the courts. And what's going to happen? The DA is going to say, you know what? We're going to drop all these misdemeanors. We're going to take a plea on 1 felony, give you time served in the county jail, which also is 3 to 1. So every 1 day you spend in county counts at 3, which is insane. So you can spend 2 to 3 days, or we'll just give you time served for the weekend that you were here. Have a good day. And the 6 victims that were involved in those misdemeanors that got dismissed will never get justice because they took a plea on the felony, dropped the misdemeanors, gave them time served. They spent 2 days in jail. They're back on the street. And I see it time and time again that a month later, they're back in jail. And the cycle continues
Mhm.
because they're in and out, in and out, in and out, because there's no accountability. And then I look at police reports like I did yesterday, where they call this guy who's a suspect in a shooting and a domestic violence, and he's already out on bond for aggravated assault. And I see in his police report where the detective called him and he says, "Look at my record. I'm gonna beat this case like I did the last ones. I'm a hood. No, I'm from the streets."
Mhm.
What?
Yeah. Yep.
They are
That
entitled to say, "I will beat this case like I did the last ones."
Yeah, let me see if I can find it on your account because she posted it on her Twitter account, and it was from the actual legal documents.
Yeah,
'Cause
these are court records.
yeah,
This
this
isn't, I didn't make this up. This wasn't an interview. This was in his affidavit for the arrest.
let's see. Nope, not this one. Yeah, you got a few documents on here right now. Let's see. Warning. When did you post that?
Yesterday.
Yesterday? You're so active, though. Okay, here we go.
Oh,
I found it.
I got a
Ah,
lot to say. There's a lot to talk about.
I know. There's so much going on in Harris County and Texas in general, and it's sad because Texas has a reputation for being tough on crime, and they're not. So this is on her Twitter account. Um, exactly what she said. That what he said, he would beat this case like he did the others, and
Look at my record.
I can't believe he said that. Like I was scared of police when I was younger. I got in trouble. It's not like I've never been arrested, but I was respectful and scared of police. So we're talking about these organizations, bonding people out. So we'll touch base real quick on HB 76. So that has to do with political organization subdivision, using public funds to pay bail bonds because we don't want public funds being used for bail bonds. Would you want the government paying for bail bonds? Do you want your county
We're
or
already paying for their attorneys.
right?
We're already paying for their stay at the Harris County Bed and Breakfast. And now you want me to pay for them to get out of jail
Yeah.
after
So
victimizing me. Yeah, I don't feel so good about that.
yeah. So if you live in Texas and you don't want your city, county to be paying for people's bond, it is HB 76. I'm gonna share that in the chat as well. Uh, and like I said, you can attend to testify, you can do public comment. That's just the house.texas.gov/committee/comment, or no, committee. No, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. It's comments.house.texas.gov. Super easy. Or just contact your representative if you're not okay with this. I'm not okay with it. I don't want people getting is like what does that doesn't sound good. Like why would I want my because the government's the one that's supposed to be protecting me. So they're also bonding out the person that did something to me. I don't think I like
Oh,
that.
and now we're going to send them to trade school.
I mean, if it's like a kid, that if juveniles, if they're in like some juvenile center or something, give them an education, give them a trade. That's cool. But like
Absolutely.
they still need to be away. Like they obviously cannot be trusted at home. So put them somewhere else.
Yeah,
Then teach them. I'm totally fine with them learning stuff in prison
absolutely.
or jail,
Absolutely.
but definitely not
In place of
yes,
punishment.
no. Definitely
Or
not.
saying, if you complete your trade certificate, I will dismiss your charges. So what you've done is, it's not a diversion, it's a dismissal. So you have dismissed your victim
Mhm.
and everything that they've been through by saying, well, if you do a trade, then I will dismiss your charges. I would not be happy.
No. And so we also, so another bill that is up for bond is HB 75, relating to the release of defendants on bail, the duties of a magistrate in certain criminal proceedings, and the regulation of charitable bail organizations, which we've mentioned some of those organizations earlier. We just want to be able to regulate what is happening. We're not saying that these organizations can't exist or what they're doing. We just want them to have some regulation. The person, that guy that drove through the parade, was was it a Christmas parade or something? I don't remember, but you know what I'm talking about. The guy that hurt and killed a bunch of people, drove through the parade. He was just bailed out. I think it was a violent offense. Right? It was a violent offense, and was bailed out by a charitable bail organization. We want to prevent things like that happening. If you have a violent charge, you should not be able to be bailed out. There needs to be regulation to this. And magistrates are different than judges. Magistrates, most people don't even know that magistrates exist. I didn't know that they existed until we got involved in that. A magistrate is not voted on. A
They are
magistrate,
not elected judges. These are
yes,
appointed, hired judges by their House judges. And so, if Frank Aguilar, his magistrate is going to follow the same kind of things that he did, and we could see what was happening in his court until he killed himself. So we know that they follow the same agendas as the person that's paying them.
right. So we should have the right to have some control over the things that happen, because as it is now, there is nothing. And a lot of times these violent criminals come in and it's the magistrate that has set the bond. It's not even some of these judges, we get upset with. They have done things, but some of these cases it's not the judge, it's the magistrate that did it. They haven't even made it to the
They
judge
haven't
yet.
even gone to their arraignment hearing
Right.
with their home judge. They've only saw their hearing officer, and who doesn't necessarily have all the information needed to make a decision on bail.
Correct. And
And the
you would
biggest
think that,
argument I have is wealth versus risk. We need to stop talking about wealth. It's not about wealth. Wealthy people aren't doing these crimes. It is about the risk to the community. So when you're able to have their entire criminal record and you can see how many bonds they're on, just as police officers do when they run your name, it pulls up your bond conditions, how many bonds you're on, all this other kind of stuff. That should be instantly available to the judges as well, so they can make a decision based on risk and not just use a risk assessment tool that can magically predict the future crime. No, we're not trying to predict the future crime. Look at their past crimes. Look at their recent history. How
yes,
many bonds are they on? These kinds of things need to go into the decision of setting a bail amount. Now, a bail schedule like we used to have was a little more fair, because whether you were rich or poor, you commit the same crime, you're going to get the same amount. And the judge can then decide when they have their hearing within 48 hours whether or not to deny, raise, lower, or whatever. But there was a process. And so you knew when you went to jail, you knew what your bond was going to be. And if you went back again, it was enhanced. It would raise the amount. And if you go again while you're on bond, it would then raise that amount again. And then after so many second chances, then you don't get any more. But then we listened to Shantir at this PIP meeting the other night talking about he doesn't want anybody in jail.
yeah, that's
Or
a
district attorney.
whole nother that'll be a whole nother conversation. So we're talking about some of these more violent offenders.
Mhm.
So that would go with
I should
HJ.
never look at somebody that has got aggravated assault charges with a deadly weapon that is out of jail, committing more crimes, and still getting a PR bond because the next crime they committed wasn't aggravated.
Right. Yeah. That shouldn't be happening. And
Take
then,
into factor what they've done before.
yeah. And so some of these other offenders. So the only crime in Texas where a judge can deny bond is capital murder. And that's a whole process in itself. The district attorney has to request the hearing and all that stuff. But so we're talking about these violent offenders. These are the ones that we want held accountable and away from us. So HJR 15 is proposing a constitutional amendment authorizing denial of bail under limited circumstances. So I need everybody to hear that part. Limited circumstances, because the organizations that oppose us are going to say that this is going to be used on everybody and yada yada yada.
Which is
Limited
what they're saying already. Very limited.
limited circumstances
Mhm.
to a person accused of certain violent or sexual offenses or continuous trafficking of persons. Because we need to, like, losing somebody to homicide is very traumatizing, but also being attacked, being raped, being trafficked is extremely traumatizing. And these victims need to not live in fear as well. If you're accused of continuous trafficking, this wouldn't even be the first time. This would be continuous trafficking of persons. If you have been to court more than once for trafficking, it's probably not a mistake.
Mhm.
So this one is another one that I support because they should absolutely be denied bail if you are a very violent person, certain sexual offenses. And this would be under limited circumstances. So there would have to be other things than this being a case of someone's gonna bring it up where, like, what if they were drunk and this girl changed her mind? This isn't going to be that kind of
No.
case where it's some frat boy
They're
and
still going to have a hearing. They're still going to have to show proof of evidence before they make these decisions to hold somebody. So it's not like a judge is just from the jump going to be like, nope, I'm holding that person. There's a risk assessment that's involved. They're still going to have to show their evidence. They're still going to have to make these educated decisions on keeping somebody that's very violent in jail. Because if it's a Me Too movement, it's just a rumor from 20 years ago, that does not apply to this. You still
yeah.
have to have your proof, your evidence to say that this person is dangerous and needs to stay in jail. These are what the judges need to make these decisions, and it's very limited. So we had somebody that tried to bring it up, wrote an article in the Comical and said, and I put it on there the other day in the article, like, well, if you compare a turkey hunting Peepaw who's out there and has a domestic violence charge, and then you have a drug dealer who's very violent with the domestic violence charge, then both of these people can be held in jail if this were to pass. You just because Peepaw doesn't have any money to get out of jail, but the drug dealer would. That's not what this applies to. Peepaw's first arrest while he's turkey hunting for
No.
domestic violence is not comparable to a drug dealer with habitual domestic violence charges. That's not a comparison, because these are not the people that are going to have bail withheld. Peepaw with his first time domestic violence while turkey hunting is not going to be held without bail.
Yeah, he can't get a PR bond, but he would get a lower bond. And reading this bill, it has to be a first felony in the first degree.
Mhm.
So your first offense in domestic violence, if it wasn't like,
And most of our
that would be a
domestic violence
misdemeanor.
charges are already misdemeanors.
Right. So that wouldn't even apply.
So sorry, turkey hunting people, you're not going to go to jail for the rest of your life and be held without bail.
Yeah. And that's why it's important to look through these bills, because the
Read the
wording is
language.
in there, and that's why I'm sharing it. You can't believe unfortunately what the media says sometimes. You can't trust the headlines. You have to do the research yourself, because there is a lot of misinformation being spread, and two sides are being pitted against each other, and then it's just people in the middle that are suffering, because if you bring up this issue, you have one side saying this and the other side saying that, and we're like, we just want help.
Look at who has supported these bills already and have written their letters of support and have reached out to us. We're talking about our local leaders in law enforcement, right?
Mhm.
Multiple politicians, all victims. I have people, inmates in TDC doing life for very violent crimes that are supporting bills like these, that are supporting the very people that they victimized in these types of things, because they know what they did wrong and they know what's right. And like that one told me, like, man, there's people in here that shouldn't be here, but most of the people, they need to be here. And I'm scared if some of these people get out, because I have my families out there in the free world. And if some of these people get out of prison, it's not okay. They should be here. All of us agree. So why is it that everybody agrees with victims, but then we have these organizations and we have criminal defense attorneys that don't?
Right.
So if victims, they're offenders, and people with common sense can agree, it's a public safety issue. It's not a political issue.
Yes, and that unfortunately is what happens often, is it gets packaged as this political, you must be some crazy right-wing person if you care about crime in these bills. You must be a racist and hate
You're a
immigrants,
Trumper.
and yeah, and
Yeah.
you don't know me or my background. I try to stay politically neutral, especially publicly, because this matters to me, and I just
I
want
vote for people,
change.
not party.
Right. I try to, especially with your local elections, those are going to be what impacts you the most. Most people don't pay attention to the judges. Most people don't get to know their city council. I don't know if other areas, because Texas has the county judges. I don't know what other states have for county. Is that a mayor? I think there's city
So
and
they have
I think
county
Miami
executives.
has county and city mayors. So I'm gonna, yeah. So pay attention. I mean, obviously pay attention to everything in politics, but really focus on what is happening around you, because it
Who makes the
impacts.
budget decisions? Who makes
Yes.
the policy? Yeah.
Let's see. So we talked about HB 36. We talked about HB 75, HB 76, 799. HGR 15 and 16. So the only other two that are coming up to talk about are HB 166 and HB 1135. So HB 1135 is relating to the temporary vehicle tags, or tampering with government record. And for those of you that aren't aware, that's been a huge, huge issue in Texas. Temp tags for Texas even made it up to New York, because one of my friends was telling me that was an issue up there as well. And people are using the temp tags to commit crime. They are using it to beat the toll. They're using it for a lot of issues, but it is a big issue when it comes to crime. So there's people out there that are have businesses that are creating these issues. I do have a quick video that I'm going to share to kind of help explain, because this impacts everybody in Texas as well. This impact, there's been used in homicides, it's been used in robberies, it's been used in drive-bys. This is something that definitely needs to pass, and there needs to be severe penalties for these. Because imagine, like, somebody hits you, or even something as minor as an accident. You're not going to be able to do anything because that tag isn't registered to anybody. It's a horrible issue, and it's been going on for years. They changed how the tags look, but it's still an issue that needs greater penalties. So I'm just going to play this quick video.
Murders, drive-bys, robberies. When we explain just how many crimes are committed using fraudulent Texas temporary tags,
the thief got away in a black four-door Cadillac with paper plates.
We were only talking about Houston.
They're all over New York.
But police as far away as New York say they're also inundated.
I know some other states close by to us, or New Jersey, probably Connecticut, are having the same issues, but they're everywhere in the Northeast.
Texas paper tags purchased online, printed out, and affixed to vehicles suspected in crimes all over the country. FBI Special Agent Brandon Coker says his colleagues are all asking the same thing.
Usually the first question when they reach out to me is, what is going on in Texas? Why are these Texas temp tags all over our cities and our states?
Here's the problem. Only licensed Texas car dealers have access to the temporary tag system. So when they sell a vehicle, they can print a paper plate for the customer.
They're basically just shell dealerships. They don't exist in reality. They exist only to sell the tags.
And they're selling millions of them. Coker's investigation found these two men opened fictitious car dealerships and sold some 580,000 paper plates through these ads on Facebook. The Texas Department of Motor Vehicles issued the dealer licenses that allowed the fraud, because when these alleged criminals apply for licenses, they're using stolen identities.
Just because a person has a driver's license from any state doesn't mean that that's who they actually are.
KPRC2 Investigates first exposed the problem in 2017.
Hey, I'm here to pick up the plate.
When we sent a photographer undercover to purchase a paper plate from this home. The DMV admitted at the time.
We did find that was issued through our system.
And when we asked how the DMV makes sure dealer applicants are who they say they are.
We don't have a way of validating that.
4 years to solve a problem and we still don't have a solution.
This is absolutely an emergency. We're looking at every possible solution we can to expedite the process for shutting off bad dealers.
This is Whitney Brewster, Executive Director of the Texas DMV since 2012. What the agency is considering now is limiting the number of temporary tags any one dealer can issue. New applicants could only get about 900 a year, but police say criminals would still be able to get multiple dealer licenses.
As soon as we detect them, we immediately start the process for removing their access.
But fraudulent dealers work fast. In just 4 months, Casneil's Auto claimed it was selling vehicles from this small lot on Lockwood. They sold more than 236,000 paper tags. And there are dozens more fake dealers like this one. Police say identifying them and arresting them would be easy if the DMV would do one thing.
Fingerprints are, the best way to 100% identify a person's identity.
Yes, we have some bad actors, but we also have to be mindful of those that are good, honest, lawful businesses trying to operate in Texas.
How would the good actors be harmed by you asking for fingerprints?
Well, it would be a requirement for them to pay for fingerprints and then have their staff go through fingerprinting before they can even get a license.
Texas Senator Paul Bettencourt says Texas may do well to scrap the entire paper tag system and start over.
Why are we handing out a piece of paper that somebody can run to a Xerox machine in the 21st century and make a change on?
Starting a completely new system will also take time. And right now, the DMV is not set to make any changes this year. The executive director said she may need legislative approval for more changes. The legislature doesn't meet again until January of 2023.
Yep. So this video is from 3 years ago. So this is still an issue in Texas. So we still have the same system. So that's why this legislation has been put into place, because nothing has changed yet. And we have to stop because it's a easy thing for criminals to have. At my old apartment complex, there was this family that kept changing their temp tags on their vehicles. And then at one point they had two of the same brand of car. And then they just copied the temp tag for the other car. They were the exact same tags and nobody did anything. It was definitely I totally told on them and nobody did anything because I don't like that. I don't know clearly you're up to something if you never have an actual license plate and then you are copying. And so many people at that complex had temp tags.
Yeah. Every single vehicle involved in our robberies that we had paper plates. Every single one.
Yeah, it's
So it got to the point that if we saw a vehicle pull up with paper plates, we would lock the door.
really.
Mhm.
I
As
can't
soon as
say that
they backed in and they had paper plates, we would lock the door because we knew what was going to happen. One, they're backed in, and two, they have paper plates. It might be 11 o'clock on a Sunday morning, but we're about to get robbed. And so we would lock the door.
Yeah, I would always get a little nervous on the highway or what if I saw a paper plate because there's been, road rage, I should say roadway
There's been a lot
shootings.
of roadway shootings with
Yeah.
paper plates. There's been a lot of people that run the tolls on the toll road because they have paper plates. And not that I care about people having to pay on the toll road because we paid that thing 3 times already. But they're scamming the state, the county, the city out of money too by running the tolls with the fake paper plate. And yes, it does alert now. If you run through with the paper plate, it will alert. But you know what? How many precinct 5 constables are on the Beltway right here that are going to be able to catch everybody?
It's
And
a
then
roll of the dice if they'll get
like
pulled
they're not
over.
going to catch it. I saw them catch somebody that had like well over $3,000 in past due tolls, and they were banned from using the toll road and still did it and got pulled over and was still let go with another ticket for driving an unauthorized vehicle on the toll road.
Yeah,
With
I
past
mean,
due
they're
fines.
not going to
So
pay that. They
nothing's
don't
gonna
care.
happen. And these are the people, it's like, you watch TV and you think, oh, I'll get the plate number and I can tell the cops and they're going to find this person. No, 1, the plate's not going to match the car. 2, it's going to be a fake paper plate. 3, the car's stolen. You're never going to be. So it's like getting a license plate number. It doesn't guarantee any justice because we have issues like this. And they're not just doing fake plates, they're doing fake IDs, they're doing fake socials. I've sent it to the sheriff's office. I don't know how many times you see it on Instagram. Somebody's advertising. You can get a whole new driver's license, a social. You can get you can even get a new credit file with an ITIN number. You can get your plates. You can get paycheck stubs. You can get fake leases, rental. I mean, just anything. $150. Whole new identity.
I saw one on Twitter like just yesterday talking about that you can get pay stubs if you're having it was like trying to get approved for something if you're having
You want
trouble
to get
getting
approved
approved.
to get an apartment because you have to have a job, you
Mhm.
have to have your paycheck stubs, you have to have rental history, and you can't have a criminal background. So in order for them to get an apartment, they create these fake identities and then they'll go rent an apartment. They'll sit in there for 3 months without paying rent. They finally get evicted. It wasn't the right person. It was somebody's stolen ID. And then they've never paid rent. But they literally will do this every 3 months. Then they'll create a whole nother ID, move to another apartment and do the same thing. And so they're paying, a $1,000, $1,200 security deposit every 3 months. So they're paying $400 a month in rent. Pretty much because they're not paying rent for 3 months to get, evicted finally.
I'm too
And
lazy
so
to do
then,
that.
yes, why would you do that? Or just get a job and get an apartment. But they will move every 3 months. I had somebody who was in the military whose identity was stolen, and he had 3 apartments in his name, and he doesn't even live in the country because he's deployed.
Oh, so they stole his identity and
They
he
stole his
didn't know.
identity, and he had 3 apartments rented in his name. And all 3 of them had evictions. And it was his identity. He wasn't even in the country and had to prove that he wasn't here.
Yeah.
But it ruined his credit. And it was because he came back because he was getting ready. They were about to bring him back to San Antonio from overseas. And so he was trying to rent an apartment and nobody would because his identity had been stolen and he had 3 evictions.
That's terrifying. So the fact that we need a law passed to stop what's happening with the temp tags is insane. The defense from the DMV talking about, I mean, how much is it going to cost? How much do fingerprints cost? How much could that possibly
We
cost?
already have most of them.
Someone tell me how much?
I think I paid $13 for my state fingerprints when I got my gun license. I want to say it was like $13 or something. It wasn't It wasn't expensive.
So I'm looking at so yeah, it says the FBI charges $13.25, and then AI says it could be up to $40. I mean, that's not
Yeah, I got
that
my
much. That's not that much.
I got my open carry license. I paid $13 for my fingerprints. I went to the little government office and it's all digital, and then it went back to the state. And then 2 weeks later, once I'd been approved, I got my license.
So we can do that for gun licenses, but we can't do
We
that
can't
for
do that for
temp
car
tags.
dealers. Like, you shouldn't be able to be a car dealer, one, if you have a felony record for embezzling and fraud and everything else to begin with. But we have to be able to make sure that if you have to get fingerprinted and stuff to get other professional licenses in Texas, like being a plumber and electrician and all this other kind of stuff, being an x-ray technician, you can't have a criminal record and you have to be fingerprinted and everything else. So why is it a problem now just to get license plates and to be a dealer?
Yeah.
If you're a dealer, submit your fingerprints if you have nothing to hide.
I fully agree. I have Texas tradesman just said in the chat, and also to get an apprentice license, you need to have your fingerprints ran.
There he
So
is.
like why that it doesn't make sense to me, the excuse that the DMV made, because it's literally, like you said, all these other industries do it, and it's having not just an impact in Texas. This is going outside of Texas, that people in law enforcement in New York is having an issue. You would think all the other states would be really they're probably really mad at us right now.
Everybody looks to Texas to see what we're doing, and they think that let's go do it everywhere else. And then they're like, wow, y'all started it. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, like we used to be an example when it came to law and order, but now we're definitely
the world's laughing
not.
at us.
Yeah. So I'm just going to touch base real quick on HB 166. So this one, I mean, I want it passed, but like my passion's not really in this one. So if you can support it, great, but I'm not going to do a whole lot of detail in this one. Basically, it should be a criminal offense if somebody in your care, like a child, elderly, or somebody that's disabled, gets methamphetamines in their system somehow by you producing it or having it around. Of course, I want that passed, but I'm not going to go too far into it.
That's common sense too. Most
Yeah.
people would agree to that anyway. That's not the one that's going to have. Nobody's going to oppose that.
You would,
one.
I would hope so. I hope nobody
would hope.
opposes that. That would be insane, because let's protect the meth makers. Like maybe there's an organization for them too. So I wouldn't be surprised at this point.
Maybe, but the ones that oppose would be far outshone by the people that support.
We would hope so. So there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So yeah, there will be 8 bills going up on Tuesday. So if any of the bills that we've discussed, if you support them, would greatly appreciate you reaching out to the person that represents you. Let me see, do I still have that up? Yes. So I'm going to share that again. If you don't know who represents you, you can go online and find out who represents you, and then you'll be able to contact them, email them, call them, and then there's also the option for public comment, so you can show your support for these bills. We desperately need your help. There's not enough people that are involved, and those organizations that we talked about earlier, they have a lot of people. And when it comes to people like us that have been impacted by the system, have lost people we love to violence, it's not like we're out there connecting with each other. It's a very rare thing that happens. There's generally not support groups, because how are you going to find each other? The only reason I got connected was because Parents of Murdered Children existed in Houston. It's not in every city and state. There's only 2 in Texas. And Texas is a huge state, unless, it's victims that were involved in mass shootings and things like that, those families have each other. But there are thousands of people that have been impacted by homicide. And some people aren't capable of public speaking or doing any sort of advocacy. And that's totally fine. And they're not capable because it's not their thing, or they're in such despair because of what they're going through, or they're busy fighting the system that is against them. And that's how we feel. We feel like the system that is supposed to protect us is not
victimizing us again.
Yes.
There's not an aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon support group.
No.
So I spent years by myself, not being able to leave the house or go out to eat, go to concerts, go to my kids' school functions, all of that. There's not a support group that teaches you about your grief of being robbed, beaten, stabbed, held at gunpoint over and over. There's no support groups for that. And so I didn't have anybody to talk to about it either until I started meeting some of you guys, and it's like, oh man, we've been through different things, but it all feels the same and we all want the same end goal. So we are each other's support group.
Mm-hmm.
And we need help. Anybody that cares about the safety of this community, we need help. We can't, it's exhausting. We all have jobs. We all have kids, families, and it is very tiring. So to know that we have support from the community, we hear all the time, I support you. Please write a public support comment, send a letter, contact your politicians who represent you, and they need to also hear it.
Yeah, I fully agree. And it's, we desperately need help. And that's the biggest problem, is that there's not enough support. There's not enough. I don't know what people think the system gives us. I think that people assume that victim compensation, everybody gets victim compensation, or people pay for, or the system pays for transportation. It pays for your days off. It pays to go to court. It doesn't. You get nothing. I keep picturing like the end of Willy Wonka, where he's like, and you get nothing, you win nothing. That's basically what the system is to us. You get nothing. You get nothing but an uphill battle. You get grief, and you get absolutely nothing.
We've been personally attacked.
Yes.
For speaking out.
Yes. Yeah. And that happens too. So other people are in fear of speaking up. Like, I'm looking at a video with Alexis, Jocelyn's mom, and the comments make me want to punch somebody in the face, because somebody said she snuck out of the house to be with older men and got killed for it. Hardly a tragedy. Are you kidding me? First of all, that's not what happened. She didn't sneak out to meet older men. She snuck out to get a snack. And even if she did,
you should be able to go to the gas station at any time, any day, and get your chips and sodas without having two monsters twice your size drag you under a bridge, brutalize and kill you because you wanted to go get snacks, and then say, well, you shouldn't have been out at night. I should be able to go out whatever time I want. I shouldn't have to worry about not coming home from the gas station.
Yes.
I should never have said, I'm going to go to work and not come home today. I wasn't a first responder. I would, if I go to the police academy and I decide I want to be a cop, I know that every day I go on shift, it might be the day that I'm not coming home.
Right.
I went to work and I wasn't a first responder. Nobody should be a retail store manager and think today is the day I'm going to die.
Exactly. Nobody should have to go to work and fear going to work. I mean, how many gas station clerks have we had killed? How many smoke shops have had robberies? The Little Caesars pizza incident, where
Yeah.
Like he killed the deputy because he didn't like his pizza and pulled a gun out on the
Pistol whip the Little
yeah.
Caesars dude. Like, this is a kid making $12 an hour to make pizza, and he just got pistol whipped because the pepperonis weren't right. Come on. Or the one they had last year, this girl like pulled a gun at Whataburger, a Jack in the Box, and everybody else. Like, every time her food was wrong, she's pulling a gun on drive-through workers. Like, these are high school kids working minimum wage, their first job, and because you didn't get cheese on your tacos, you're gonna pull a gun at somebody. And like, what? I like food, but not that much.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I'm always nice to workers because I've worked
I'm
retail.
nice to people touching my food.
Yeah, especially people touching my food. So I'm just going to share a quick video from a few months ago where it's
I'm reading Christina's comment. I'm so sad.
they're discussing Jocelyn. So this is when they were talking about seeking the death penalty, and Alexis agrees with it. I just want to remind everybody, what these bills are about. HJR 16 is about this little girl and this not preventing this from happening to other families. Jocelyn was a very adventurous 12-year-old. She loved her family. She had a fantastic support system, a huge family, and her mother certainly didn't fail her. That shit really pisses me off when I see those comments.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of mom was she? Like, oh, I'm sorry, were you perfect? Were you a perfect child? I snuck out of the house. You know what I did? I walked to my friend's house in the middle of the night. And like, I was like
All the
12 or
time.
13. Like, I walked to my friend's house. Like, so if somebody kidnapped me, would that have made my mother
It's
a
your fault.
bad? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
It's your fault.
no, absolutely not.
Your mom was terrible because you snuck out of the house.
Yeah. And I've met Alexis. Alexis is, I think that she's a fantastic mom. And, people think that she's doing all this for clout and shit like that.
Nobody
Being on,
asked for this.
yeah, being
Attention.
in the news and having people pick apart your life is not something she likes. When I have seen her, most of the time, she doesn't talk that much. And she's silently crying most of the time when I see her. So don't think just because she's not crying in the news that she's not dying inside every single day, because I assure you that she is.
Thank you. Well, prosecutors will seek the death penalty against 12-year-old Jocelyn Nunguri's murder suspects. Fox 26's Jonathan Mejia spoke exclusively with Nunguri's mother on that decision, and Jonathan joins us live with what she had to say. Jonathan.
Alexis Nunguri tells me it was a difficult decision to take, but it was the right one to make.
If I'm being completely honest, it's a little mixture of both. Like, I want them to forever live in prison, miserably, tormentedly, but I also do want death for them.
Alexis Nunguri, the mother of 12-year-old Jocelyn, says deciding to seek the death penalty was a big responsibility and felt like a large burden on her shoulders.
After doing some thinking on it, I do think it fits the crime. It's an eye for an eye, and if they did not want to be eligible for the death penalty, they should have never did what they did to who they did it to.
Jocelyn's accused murderers, Franklin Peña and Johan Martinez Rangel, are illegal migrants from Venezuela.
We are seeking death because we want the message out there that regardless of who you are, but especially if you are illegally in this country, that you will face the same consequences as anyone else for murdering a child during the course of raping and kidnapping her.
The news of seeking a death penalty has been a positive for Alexis as she is going through her first holidays without her daughter. Christmas is coming up, and just 2 days after is Jocelyn's birthday.
I really always wonder and do the what ifs, what she could have been. And it does make me sad to know that I was ripped away from those opportunities of seeing her. But I just try to hold on to her memory and all the good times I've had with her and all the good memories I have of her, and try to just really appreciate them through the last child I have.
Both accused murderers are due in court in February. I'm reporting live in North Houston.
Yeah, no family should have to go through what they have gone through. And again, that bill is not seeking out people that are undocumented. It is purely for those that have been charged with an offense,
With violence.
punishable as a felony. Also has to be a felony
Mhm.
for them not to get bond. So again, this isn't little minor misdemeanor things.
Was it turkey hunting Peepaw on his first BBA?
Yes. So, that's all I have for today. Is there anything else that you wanted to add or no?
If anybody
Okay.
has any questions or really wants to have some more explanation or what they think they should say, definitely reach out to either one of us. We have a lot to say.
Yeah.
So I would definitely encourage. I could guide explain and guide if they don't know what to say and support. But the more people we have that can support these bills and reach out to their politicians that are making these decisions, it doesn't affect just us. It's going to affect the future of every crime victim in the state of Texas if we're able to get these things passed. And the way I see it is that's 100% what needs to be supported. And, a lot of people ask us all the time, why do you do this? Why do you make yourself a victim again, having to tell your story over and over and over? And it's because I don't want somebody else to have to tell their story over and over and over and live through those same things. My family should never have had to live my trauma because of what it did to me. Your family should never have had to live your trauma because of what happened to you in Austin. Same thing for everybody. And if I can save just one person from not having to feel the way I feel every time I leave the house, it's worth it. To be told to go back to my country, to be personally attacked, to be threatened, to be harassed, worth it. Worth it, because to save just one person from the trauma that we've been through as victims and survivors, it's worth it for me. So if anybody needs an explanation, they want help with their support letters, definitely reach out. Either one of us, we have a lot to say. And look at these bags under my eyes. Do you know why I have these bags under my eyes?
I
Christina.
do.
No,
I do.
Christina. She made me laugh so damn hard last night. I laughed for an hour. I swear to God.
I put a link down there that has my link tree. Michelle and I are both on Twitter, and you can reach out to us there. You can reach out to me on any of the social medias, and Michelle also. And my email is just jessicaforjustice@gmail. Make sure it's Jessica with a K, because I found out there is a Jessica with a C for justice. Because somebody sent me an email and they're like, why didn't you respond? I'm like, what email? And then they showed me. I was like, oh no.
No, J with a K.
So just make sure it's Jessica with a K if you're trying to reach out to me. And it might take me a little bit, few hours to reach out, but I do check it as much as I can. So again, I appreciate everybody being here. I'm going to update my post on Twitter with the links, and I'm also going to add all these links that I've been sharing in the chat in the description of the YouTube video. And, Chat GPT also is a good thing to use to kind of get some ideas. Or if you can't find something and you're Googling for it, Chat GPT can also help find the source and stuff like that. Thank you, Dawn, and Michelle will send you that information that we were talking about, those organizations, because one thing Michelle has is receipts. Anything that comes out of her mouth, she has proof of that. So she has lists on lists on lists. So she probably has a lot of stuff that you would appreciate, Dawn. So again, I appreciate y'all being here. I'm sure Michelle and I will be back very soon, because there's always stuff going on. We just have to plan it. So we'll let you
see us
know
on Tuesday, being as loud as we can in Austin.
Yeah,
I don't want to be in Austin, but we'll be there. Don't like it there. We'll be there.
Yeah, so if you do go to Austin, Michelle and I will be there. Please come up and say hello and let us know that you're there. But yeah,
Don't sneak up on us though.
Yeah, no, we're both very jumpy, so please don't sneak up on us. And you can watch it You can watch the
It will be
committees
live streamed.
that is on the Texas House government website if you're interested in watching it. And yeah.
And then pay attention to who votes and how they vote.
Yes. Yeah. Pay attention to who votes what. And if your person that represents you votes in a way that you don't like, contact them and let them know. Be nice, because it's not going to help if you're not nice. So make sure to just be polite. That's all I ask. If you contact anybody that represents you, just be polite. It's because I don't want you being like, I support this bill, but I hate you. Don't do that, please.
Yeah, let's not do that.
All right.
They know.
I'm going to water my lawn because I don't want my lawn has turned to dust. So that's what I'm going to go do today.
I'm not going out there. There's pollen.
Oh, it's so dry. But yeah, we could talk about my sinuses for another 50 minutes.
Indeed.
All right. I love you all, and I will see you next time. Bye, y'all.